I'm going to ask all the speakers to come up. Should we probably stand instead? This feels weird to sit. Please come up, and we'll have a few questions. Jesper as well. Let's see if we
Where
can do
do
it.
you want us?
I think probably in front of the blue line.
Front of the blue line.
I think it's better that we just stand here and talk. And I'm going to, let's see, I'll give that to you, and then you'll just pass that along, and I'll stay on the side. So, and I need to keep track of that for the online questions. So much to keep track of today. Thank you so much. A lot of thought comes to mind when we listen to all of you. But I thought we'll take step by step and go through. We listened to Charles, and how do you, the rest of the panel, how do you feel about the changes in the APIs? Do you believe it's changing enough? Is it really supporting the individual? I'm curious about your thoughts on this. Robert, do you want to start?
I think it's good and really bad, because what is happening now, I mean, of course, Cambridge Analytica came out really bad, but still, it was available for us to actually look into the data that Facebook has, that they possess, that they can do stuff with, and now we kind of locked everything into their vault. I mean, I think the changes in the API are bad for society in the long run.
But
That's
needed now, or?
No, I'm not sure, actually. But I think we need. I would like what we tried to do with this was that we wanted it to be like a public service.
Yeah, like
thing.
transparent.
Yeah, and we wanted it to be open for research. Now anybody's looking into like the social behaviors of people and the social psychology of people. They don't have access to the tools that Facebook have. And if you want to look into that, you will need Facebook's permission, and you will only see what they show you.
Do you have a comment on that, Charlie? You that do look a lot at this data and prior, and now it's being closed off.
Yeah, no, I think it's only just happened, so there's arguments for both sides, and we spoke about this a lot before the event, and I think you can easily make a case for both sides and almost be correct in both opinions. It's difficult to say for sure, obviously, because otherwise we wouldn't be debating it. Yeah. But it's just really interesting to see both sides, and as I said, you can be equally as correct on either side.
Yeah. Britt, do you have a comment?
No, only short that at this time I see the great value in every possibility we have to discuss aspects concerning data collection. So I see it as a golden opportunity to do that. We are in the middle of something we need to sort out.
Yeah, good. And Jesper, you look into this a lot as well, of course. So how do you feel about it? Will it change? Is it good or bad?
Well, I am of the opinion that Facebook should go open source on their code, and so they should. I mean, they should. The data, I can understand that they need to protect it because of certain people and things like that. But generally, you can scrape this data anyhow, so you don't have to go through the API. So that doesn't stop the most evil users. But I do believe that they have to tell us how they are actually using the data and what they're doing with it. And so I believe that instead of like breaking down, as you do big business, you don't allow monopolies. You rather make this a transparent monopoly, which a lot of developers can go on and change bugs, and I can select what kind of Facebook I want as a user.
Good point. I also want to ask you, since we are at a Amec seminar and we're talking to a lot of the people in the industry, do you believe that this whole breach and all this discussion is also going to affect the industry that is data-driven and that is using data a lot? It could be through analysis or monitoring, but also other types of tech services using data. How do you see that pan out?
Sorry, I just have to ask Charlie, was it in fact a breach?
It wasn't really.
No, because that's the thing I always react to. It wasn't a breach, was it? No.
No, it wasn't.
Well, please inform us.
But I would say absolutely. I would say it's definitely going to have an effect,
Yeah.
particularly short term. I think short term there'll be an effect, particularly considering changes have come in maybe slightly earlier than a lot of companies were expecting. So they didn't quite have the amount of time, some of them, to adjust. And in the short term, you can't do things in the same way that you used to be able to. Whether that's good or bad, it's up to your opinion. But the long term, companies are going to find other ways of doing things anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of them already have. So it's about bringing in this regulation and being responsible for it and making sure they come in at the right times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to comment on that? I was also curious about, do you think that people will be more willing to give data at their choice? You know, talking about how they want this service, they want this easy kind of life. So do you think that will change, that we will actually agree to when we leave our data, or will we click no, 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 no? What's your feeling about now that we getting more options?
We don't really. We're not. Because, I mean, given what we're hardwired to do, I mean, some of us might think about it, but it's still satisfactory.
Yeah,
We
it's
still
all that
eat. We
sugar.
still eat we still eat like sweet manufactured
Yeah,
processed food, and we love it. And we can think it's wrong, and we would think we do differently, and we can think that we should lose weight and everything, but we still eat it.
yeah.
Because it goes directly to our reward system. So I don't think it. I mean, they could have had 4 or 5 or 6 more scandals around Facebook. I still think they would survive.
Yeah. Any other comments on
Yeah,
data?
I think that it's important to understand that I can use, in order to do what Cambridge Analytica did, I only need about 1,200 words from you, like a written essay or something like that. And in order to target you based on that ocean analysis, I need just your email address, because then I can find you anywhere. And so just because Facebook has closed this down, it doesn't mean that it's still possible. So I believe that we need to find new ways of actually dealing with this and
Good point.
understanding it, because it's not like Facebook is one player out of many, but you have been everywhere, right?
Britt, do you have a comment?
Oh, every aspect of getting more awareness still leads to that you become more aware and start asking questions. I mean, you saw that even in a Swedish perspective. I called it the Snowden effect, when you looked at how people related to data collecting. However, more on the institutions and the social media players, and maybe, for example, media, when they start collecting. And there is this, you are quite naive on your own data constantly, which is also used as an argument. I don't have anything to hide, but that's not the aspect of it. So I still see that we will see a more in-depth integrity debate, definitely, as years go by. And as said, 56% of the world's population are yet to be connected, and there will be more issues linked to this, definitely, and more players.
Yeah. I was thinking about that when it comes to democracy and what you were talking about, Britt. Since we're now voicing very openly our political different statements or movements and activism, should we be afraid that that's going to be monitored and just as you said, you know, it can be used for good or bad, and everything can be found more or less? How worried should we be? I think Sweden, we live in a very open country, and you know, but there are other parts of the world that doesn't have that privilege. And like you said, 56% is still to be connected. Is this an issue, or is this our chance to do that great thing and move the world?
This is something I could talk on for hours, because one aspect of is who is active, who is raising their voices. On a general level, of course, there is a golden opportunity for everybody to do that, but everybody doesn't do that. And that's also the aspect of when you talk about liquid democracy or whatever, who will be the active players?
Yeah.
And that is yet to be discussed, and to me that's also an educational part. You still need to know about your rights. You need to get the self-confidence enough, and that's on other levels than the technical tools.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it is being monitored. You have a situation today that you can recruit a new head of whatever institution in Sweden, and you can rest assured that the ones that know these tools and are about to sort of tear apart society will track you down and find a conversation between you and some party they don't like, and then they will start trying to get a debate on how if this candidate really is a good candidate. These are new aspects where these tools to track people, it is easy to track people.
Yeah.
And then for what will you use that?
Yeah, and of course, how much pressure can you take in an open society as well, getting that pressure from an organized
and then you
sort of
really
section.
feel monitored.
Yeah.
If you don't have that much digital experience, of course you have Facebook, you have Twitter and so on, and then you start on your new position first day at work, and people track you down and try to not let you have that position, and you will really feel monitored then, because
Yeah.
they will pick up conversations that you had years ago.
Yeah. Robert, you wanted to say
No,
something as well?
I couldn't agree more. I think
Yeah.
that's very valid. But also on the note of Sweden, we have a really weak constitution in this country. That is something we really need to think about going into the election. We could think that we're an open society. We could think that we're very much more equal value-wise than in the States or in Southern Europe. But it's still, we have a weak constitution. So please remember that going into election day. And also, I think the things you could do, I mean, we all like our sugars, but we also think about what we eat in between the snacks and how we eat. And I think we could all do that on social media too. I mean, the driving force here is not the evil against the good, it's the polarization. So even when we feel something is really good, if we push that limit and further enhance the polarization, and I mean, and that's one thing. And when you saw that part with the big gap, the big value gap in the American constituency, you have, I mean, that's where you start a discussion, argument. You need to find that common base, and now you have to dig really, really low to find that common base. So I think that what we all can do is like try to see the other side. It takes a little more energy. It's not as rewarding, but you're doing something good for yourself and for society. If you constantly try to stand against your own radicalization, because that's what we've seen in the American election also about the Russian campaign against it. It wasn't pro-Trump. It was like the extremes.
Yeah.
They were
But I
enhancing
think that
both extremes to actually widen the gap between it.
But one thing that comes to mind when I listen to you, and especially working within insights and analysis, and we've looked at how you visualize data and how you make statements. It's it's so important that we do display the data that we discuss in a way that it becomes transparent, because it's so easy to skew. And the whole aspect of who's organized and who's not, and how can we support or move forward. I think that it's going to be interesting looking at, especially for Sweden with an election coming up, we're going to see so many polls, we're going to see so many different analysts go through what's going on. And I think we'll see that globally as well, because I mean there are coming elections in other countries as well. But I just wanted to touch base on so that we've gone through, and we're going to go to these audience as well. What about Jesper? Did you agree with him that we don't, is blockchain the solution?
Yes. That's it.
And what do we do until that's in place? Any thoughts?
I have to pass on the second question, but the first question, definitely yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do until then. We have to survive and just paddle water. But I think blockchain could be the solution for this, definitely.
Britt?
Yeah, definitely. And again, we need to talk about solutions.
Yeah.
And the blockchain is one of those. We've been all busy with the new regulations here in May, but beyond that, it's time to talk about blockchain and the possibilities it creates, and that will, in some certain, really move things forward in so many areas. Definitely.
Also, you know, we've talked about consequences and everything. Are you worried about our younger generations and the impact that all this has? You just
Absolutely not. I'm worried about the older
oh,
generation.
that was my next question.
Because they have proper filters set up. Their behavior has been adjusted to this stream of information, and so I have less concern with them because they will also be used to the new type of world, and so they will, regardless of what that is, we might not like it, but they will be used to it, so it will be less of a pain for them than it will be for us.
Yes.
And I still do think that nothing comes automatically just because you drool on an iPad when you're 6 months old. Every baby drools on whatever you put in front of them. Actually, just recently traveled really from south to north of Sweden, visiting 40 schools. Meeting 1,100 young students, their teachers, their parents, their siblings, etc. And it really gave such a wonderful picture of all the possibilities, but also you give them simple examples of crowdfunding for sickness or something, and they actually pick up their phones and look at them with wonder still. So we are still in the middle of something, and I repeat what I said earlier, you still need to believe that your voice is worth listening to. Not in one classroom, nobody had thought of starting a YouTube channel or having a lot of Instagram followers, etc. But of course they have a total new media consumption and have excellent questions when you work with investigative journalism, as I work with as well. But we still need to take care of each other and really give everybody part in society. That is still, and that is beyond technology.
Yeah.
So that's an aspect that we need to really nourish.
So there is quite a lot of hope. I thought we'd try to cover in a few questions from the audience and the audience online. I have 2 questions here that I just want to, and Charlie, of course, you know, since I think that the people watching online are probably quite connected to Amec, we have one that says, if Instagram comments are no longer possible to monitor, do you fear that a surge in hashtag usage? Excessive tagging of posts already seem to be a problem to the platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually really interesting how it's already changed. So with Instagram, a really good example is the fashion industry, where a company will put out a post and then they'll put all their hashtags in the comments because it makes the post look much neater and it gets the hashtags out of the way. That's not going to work anymore, so they're going to have to find new ways of doing that. And it's really interesting actually to see how this changes. I mean, it's a really, really new change. Not everyone's adjusted to it, and it could be very realistic that actually a whole new way comes out of doing what a hashtag does now. You know, hashtags haven't been around forever. There were things that were used beforehand, and we could be looking at a slight change in the way that people use social media and use hashtags. Yeah.
Also, when it comes to influencers, the fact that you will no longer be able to see who interacts with your comments and everything, how do you think that will affect the influencer industry, which is a different industry?
So again, I don't think it will, to be honest. The way that it's done currently is going to change. So the way that companies like Talkwalker show influencers and the way we work with our clients on how to deal with our influencers will change. There are other avenues we can take. There are other ways that we can get this data. So we can use Boolean logic, for example, when we initially set up these queries. We can find author IDs and things like that. Current clients that are currently using us for influencer analysis won't really feel an impact. They'll just have to change the way that they do it, and we'll have to change the way that we support them in that.
Cool. Any other comments on the influencers, which is also? you know, highly followed, and some are big and some are small. But
yeah, it's super interesting. I have
Yeah.
no comments further than that. I think a lot of things will change, but I'd love to see what it is.
yeah,
So-
and maybe that's just it. That things are changing and evolving, and maybe we shouldn't be that scared of it either. Let's turn to the floor.
Just one small thing regarding that. You will actually be able to see one really strong effect of this, because some of the third-party apps that were offering like services prior to this, where you could do community likes, you vouch the like to get a like and things like that to boost your vanity metrics, like your likes and those have been closed down. And so you see a lot of accounts now that are diminishing in following, you know, because they haven't been able to keep up with the cleanup. So they're diminishing in followers. So we will probably see a true follower count soon enough.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Facebook is killing business.
Yeah. So do we have? Yes. Let's see if we can. Yes. You're the workout guy.
Yes. Is it really a question of being data-driven or being emotionally driven? I mean, that's actually what's happening, isn't it? And it's not new. It's just now on the internet you can have cat videos and all the other things to enhance your emotional. But basically, do we want people to make decisions just on emotions or objectively? And who's in charge of giving people? How do we know that it's objective information?
Yeah, like the facts. Very good question. And now, panel, that's something to.
When were we ever fully objective?
Mm.
I have no knowledge of such a time.
I-
But
I think there is one addition, which is that we are now connected to a system that can affect our emotions quite easily. And so I can use my understanding of how you feel and how you perceive information, and then how those feelings are exerted. Like what is the way you communicate, right? I know that. And if I understand your motivations to communicate, I can trigger those motivations. And so I can create feelings in a new way, and you will not be understanding that I do it. So that is the technology and what it offers us. And it's beautiful, and it's fun, and it's playful and nice. And then Trump becomes president, and it's like, fuck. No? But then I think also that we will find ways in order to. I'm sure that there will be tools available that will make this, you know, our own counter. Like, now you should not post. You're locked down. You're too neurotic, you know. And so I think that will happen, and it will just be by our keystrokes.
I would subscribe, definitely.
Do you have a comment on the whole facts versus emotions and?
No, this is really a long one, but maybe the short aspect that, or a point that could be made here, is to remember that we all play a part in something here. So maybe because as the same way, so many really wise people that I met since Trump became a president really mean that to make a success you need to be like him, which is such a sad comment to make. The other truth is as well that you need to be angry, you need to show emotions, and that's the way and how these social media platforms are linked around that. But hey, make a stop around that. Don't be part of that then.
Yeah.
The change starts with ourselves.
Yeah, very good point. And I think we're actually going to end it at that. I just want to thank the speakers. And since we do believe that education and knowledge is the way for a great society, we've given money to the Math Planet and Mattecentrum as speaker gifts for you. They provide digital tools for tutoring, as well as in Sweden they also have physical tutoring in 34 cities. They're also an Amec member and one of our NGO members. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here today. I think we realize that it's going to be an interesting year here in Sweden. As analysts and data scientists and media monitor companies, the Amec members and the society around data-driven technology is really, really important to keep track of what's going on and really having the right objective way of visualizing data so that we get more facts and less emotions. Thank you for coming today.